Welcome to the Dirty Penguin Presents
Movies!
Welcome to the Dirty Penguin Presents Season 2, Episode 2. We're talking Ever After, a Cinderella Story, a Drew Barrymore joint.
Oh, man.
This is my pick. This is my pick and my contribution to Season 2 movies I hate. Andy, this is too
All right,
much
well,
for me.
let's start from the top. Doug, give us those fresh movie stats.
Well, Ever After, a Cinderella Story was made in 1998, released in 1998. What do we think the Rotten Tomatoes rating is for this movie?
I didn't look at. I didn't
didn't
look at any of the stats for this one.
I did not either. I did not either.
Okay. So 98 Rotten Tomatoes, 47% for me.
I'm trying to remember how Rotten Tomatoes does it.
It's
like
the critic reviews. How many critic reviews?
but it's like 30% fresh.
Yes,
Or like
50 and above is fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
50 and below. I think
60
actually 60 and
above
is
is
fresh.
Yeah, I don't think it's fresh. I want to say it's probably at about 38%.
I was going to say that too. 30. I want to go 30.
I'm going to say it's fresh at 67.
91%.
Shut! You're lying.
And this is why
No.
this is
lying.
exactly why you need a Dirty
You are lying.
Penguin
Stop.
Presents
91%.
podcast.
Stop
You
lying.
need real people
You are
talking about
lying.
real
I was going to
movies.
go
I agree with
higher,
you.
Not
you guys,
trusting
made me
a
doubt
site
myself.
We
that would
shamed
give
you.
this movie.
You did.
Oh,
You
my
shamed me
Lord.
into going lower, but I still thought it was fresh.
She wins.
Oh my
Angie
God.
wins.
Hold on.
I-
For evidence.
Are you sure you're looking at
Since
Ever
I'm
After?
being-
Fresh.
God.
84% liked by users?
I mean, I love this
91%
Oh,
Oh my
liked.
God.
I absolutely
But
enjoyed
I
it.
wouldn't have given it no 91%. Okay.
That continues to shake my confidence in Rotten Tomatoes.
The best Cinderella movie ever. This Cinderella is undeniably magical. Ever After presents a plucky Cinderella for today's women and beyond. Charming take on Cinderella. Has a strong heroine. Once upon a time, there was a
That's what
magic-
Kevin needs right
You need to be
now.
on strong heroin to enjoy this movie.
They
Absolutely.
love this movie. So this is a budget of $26 million.
Uh-huh. And it was all in costumes.
And you couldn't have guessed it.
What do you think the worldwide gross for this movie was?
Oh my God.
In 98?
1998.
75 million.
That's where I'm headed.
I'm not good at this.
I'm going to go with 90 million.
Yeah.
Give it to us straight, Doug.
87 million. I don't know. What is
Just
it?
give it to us.
$98 million.
Woo!
Angela,
Damn.
calm down.
Wow.
What?
So there aren't very many stats on this.
Yeah.
There's not much trivia on this movie. There's about a bunch of about the actors, what
Yeah,
they've done
yeah.
on. Drew Barrymore stated this was her favorite movie of hers.
Like she's done.
Mm-hmm.
Just,
And the only other one I have is Jude Law and Johnny Lee Miller were turned down the role of Prince Harry.
Oh, Jude Law would have been good.
They turned down?
they personally turned
They
down.
turned it
They
down.
weren't turned
They
down
weren't
for
turned
the
No,
down.
they
part.
turned it down.
Yeah, well, they should have.
And so that's how we
Yeah.
got DeRay Scott.
Is that his name?
Oh, yeah. Is that...
Yes.
Okay.
What else has he done?
Oh,
He was in Blackwater with Jennifer Connelly. Dark Water.
Dark Water.
It's a
Is that
scary
a
movie.
scary movie?
Yeah.
It's a horror
Yeah.
movie from
Oh.
like 10 years ago. But that's
Yeah.
the only two. That's the only other movie I know him from.
Let's see. Hitman, Mission Impossible 2.
Hey, Mission Impossible 2.
By the way, Mission
Well,
Impossible 2
that's-
should have been the
it
movie
should-
Kevin
well,
made
it
us
should have-
watch.
You're right. It should have been, but I didn't want to go so many sequels. I was like,
Oh.
Sure.
sequels.
I was the only
sequels.
one that picked a sequel. I can't believe
Kevin
it.
Yeah.
hates this movie.
Oh.
He calls it starring Tom Cruise's hair.
Yeah, Mission Intolerable 2, starring Tom Cruise's hair.
and it put it in a spectacular performance.
It does. It gets top billing.
And so the only other thing I have on this is the director, Andy Tennant, is probably a rom-com hero. He's done Hitch,
Mm-hmm.
Sweet Home Alabama,
Yeah.
Fools Rush In,
Pattern here.
Fool's
Wow.
Gold.
Oh.
Oh, that gem.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I mean, good
Wait,
for
which
him.
one
Those
is
are
Fool's
Was this
Gold?
was
popular.
and,
That's
and this
Matthew
might be one of the
McConaughey,
reasons
right?
why I didn't
Matthew
enjoy it.
McConaughey.
We saw this in
and,
the theater.
Jackson,
Kate
Matthew
Hudson.
Jackson.
Where they shipwreck, do the shipwrecks.
Yeah.
They, like, hunt
Is it
shipwrecks.
is Ever After a romantic comedy, and I just completely missed that
Which
part
one?
of it? Ever After.
Ever After?
Was this supposed to be funny?
Well, I mean, it's romantic.
I think it's supposed to be romantic.
Kevin,
Period.
since you
End.
chose this movie,
Yeah.
any like thoughts, your underlying
Yes.
thoughts on
On this movie? Okay. I'm just gonna put it out there. This movie is supposed to be set in France.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of my notes.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Part of my
And
notes.
for the entirety of the movie, there is nary one French, at least attempted accent.
No, for some reason they went.
My first note, France or England? And then my second accent equals England.
Because Drew Barrymore even does a
Yeah,
English
an English
accent in this
accent.
movie.
Yeah,
Like,
They-
why did you even bother? Just do the American accent.
exactly.
It doesn't matter. You're not doing what true to the.
I know.
Well, okay. Yeah, I want to take it back to something Doug just said. True to the what? The fairy tale.
the fairy tale, right?
True to the fairy
the
tale.
setting.
The setting of the
is
movie.
France.
This-
Okay.
Exactly.
So earlier last
No. This isn't a fairy tale. It's not. What
It's
was-
real
what's
life.
The ending? What did she say?
Oh,
at the
I
end?
have it. I have it.
We
written
lived.
Down. I have it
They
written
lived ever
down.
after, happily ever after. But the
It's not
important
that
part
they lived
is
happily after.
They
It
lived.
said they lived.
The point,
Give me a
yeah.
fucking
The
break.
point is that they lived.
yes.
This movie is Drew Barrymore's Titanic,
I could see your
and
connection there.
it sank like a ship. Now the thing is,
Except
in
that it didn't.
Titanic, you have this true historical horrible event incident that James Cameron decides to take and turn into a fairy tale. Here, Drew Barrymore took a fairy tale and tried to turn it into a true historical, and it becomes a horrific event to have to sit through. But it is not. It is everything about Cinderella that makes the Cinderella story fun or enjoyable or watchable. Let's take that out, and let's try to set it in a real setting, and it ends up making absolutely no sense. They're in France. They're talking to the Brothers Grimm, who I believe are German, and then they talk about England a lot. And they're sending people to the Americas, and I don't even know what period I'm supposed to be in, and the accents don't fit and make sense. It was a long slog.
Well, look, can I just say about the accents?
Yes,
So
please.
there's other movies. It seems like in the movie world, in Hollywood, when they say we are going to set this movie, Troy, for example, the Brad Pitt vehicle, Troy. They're in Greece, Sparta.
Oh, that's on.
What,
that's
are
on
what
a
accents
worst
are they,
movies
are
ever
they
made
using?
list.
It's just like
No,
look,
and
if we need to put this is a certain period, this is Rome or Greece or Italy.
olden times type of
Yes,
Yeah.
we're all set here. We don't know how people
Brad Pitt
so they
is
just
doing
throw-
his Brad Pitt accent in that.
take it. It's yours. That's my Brad Pitt.
But
I mean, I think
In
even,
Troy.
even better, or another comparison is whatever his name in your favorite movie, the Mount Vesuvius. Explodes.
Pompeii.
Pompeii, where Kiefer Sutherland is like supposed to be
Yeah.
from Pompeii, and all he is
Kill
Kiefer
them.
Sutherland.
Kill them all.
Exactly.
Yeah,
But
they adopt English accents to sort of
No.
But
set
it's
them.
not just adopting an English accent. It's adopting that belief in your head. When you see a Shakespeare play, and you think people walked around talking Shakespeare to one another at that time. They
Right.
never
No.
did. People
Right.
don't, thy and thine and thou. But that's the way they wrote. It's not how they spoke.
Right.
And it's
I know.
ridiculous when you try to adopt that and make it look real. And that's part of
I'm just giving you a little bit of doing a little pushback. I
we
know there's a
are
lot of
looking
hate
for,
on the
a lot
accents.
of- Foo-la-la.
Would
Well,
you
if
have
they-
liked it better?
if
though?
they-
You'd be
some
making
baguette.
fun
No.
of it. You'd be like, oh, her
I guess
French accent.
if they were all good at it and they all sounded like they belonged together, but everybody was doing their own thing in
They
regards
were.
to an accent,
that
then
wasn't-
it wasn't
It was
it wasn't
Robin
even a
Hood.
cohesive
It was
unit.
Kevin Costner and Robin
And
Hood.
Robin
One of my-
Hood, yeah.
he didn't even bother.
No,
It's-
he
I
didn't.
said, one of my notes is, it's as if someone filmed a Renaissance festival.
That's a good one.
That's pretty accurate, I think.
And then right after that, I wrote, LARPers Gone Wild.
It was a
Andy, we take
retelling.
you
It was
did
a
not-
retelling of
You did
a
not care for this movie.
fairy tale.
No, and of the must watches, this was my hardest to. Like I was saying, there were times that I had to just walk it off. I had to get up, walk around the couch a little bit, move from room to room in the house to like just shake it off a little bit, get back, sit back down. It was just terrible. The writing, the lines, the things they say to each other. Go catch a chicken is a line that's spewed out as if it's
that is in that movie.
that is in that go catch a chicken.
Well, and actually, but if you want to get down to it, that's a line in Rocky also.
Go catch a chicken.
Yep. Absolutely.
Does it make more sense in Rocky?
I mean, he's
Part
trying
of
to
training.
catch it for his training.
Well, there
but
you go.
Mickey says, "Go catch that chicken" in some form or fashion. It's
But he
not
was really
go
trying to
catch
catch
a chicken.
chickens.
He was
Like,
really
and
trying to
You
catch
you
chickens.
let the prince steal our horse, and he returned it.
She was saying it as a. I got you.
It does. 5 days to fall. Divorce is only something they do in England.
Yes, that was a nice
They-
crack.
they-
I
on-
think
knocked
they were
down
trying to. I
England.
think at that point they were trying to make it historically accurate
They're
with
making
the
a joke
with,
about
with,
Oh,
with-
well-
I'm talking about the religion of the time, that whether you're a
Yes.
Catholic or
Yeah,
Protestant,
for-
or whether or not you could be
1500s,
divorced. And then
That's true.
let's see.
Henry VIII and his divorce.
I didn't understand Da Vinci. Why did we put Da Vinci in the middle of a Cinderella story? Again, for historical accuracy. He's
Well, I think
the
that
old
was
man in his
link-
boat
that was
shoes.
the link
Did you
to
think-
the historical whatever.
Did y'all think
you
y'all
know.
were watching like Ken Burns presents Cinderella or something?
documentary.
I mean,
it's a retelling of a-
They were
song.
supposed to be
I mean,
Cinderella with
listen,
historical accuracy, and it
yes,
just doesn't
but
make
there
sense.
is. Okay, so listen. I wrote down some of the. They tried to throw in these little Easter eggs, and one of them was the Mona Lisa.
Which was historically inaccurate because it was not painted on canvas. It's painted
Oh,
on wood.
well, I
Oh,
went.
hey, look at
Man,
you with
went
all
one,
your.
two. I just went through
I
the
saw
year.
that and it immediately just took me out of the
Miss
movie.
Cultural.
I know. I've seen the Mona Lisa.
Man,
I didn't
because
know
I was
that.
going to
Here.
say
I have one for
that
you
it
guys.
was.
A
Well,
bird may love a fish,
no.
signore, but where would they live?
listen. Okay, have y'all heard of the y'all Cracked podcast / website? So they actually just recently had 37 movie lines so purely stupid, they're purely genius. And that was one of them. The bird may love a fish, signore, but where would they live? Then I shall have to make you wings, says Leonardo da Vinci. But I tried to kind of catch him with.
So she's the fish?
I can't figure out which one. I guess he's the bird.
But I mean, that
'cause
still
you think
doesn't
of a
really
bird.
address the whole can't breathe out of water thing.
Oh, not at all.
Yeah,
Oh no, we're
You're
not.
still dying
It's just a.
for love.
Come on.
for love.
Right.
Well, and I know this was my pick, right? And I've talked about the accent,
Mm-hmm.
and I know you've mentioned that the accent thing comes up in a lot of movies. Nicolas Cage never does a good accent in any movie that he does,
Con
Raising
Air was
Arizona?
Wonderful.
except for Con Air. Raising Arizona.
Raising Arizona.
That's a good
I
one.
think that is Nicolas Cage.
Oh.
That's my theory about
Well,
that. I
is
think
it? But
that
isn't?
is
Aren't
actually
they all
Nicolas
Nicolas Cage? Isn't it
No,
just
no, no,
Nicolas
no, no, no.
Cage being Nicolas Cage in a
No, no,
Nicolas
no.
Cage movie?
No, Raising Arizona is
Is
Nicolas
Nicolas
Cage.
Cage.
I
You want
believe
to
that is
watch
the
a
most
fun
raw
one?
form
Watch
of-
what's that Robin Hood with Kevin Costner?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
halfway
Prince of
through the
Thieves.
film, he just drops
Oh,
the
he
accent.
just drops it. Right.
Like he had.
He never really had
never really
it.
had it.
He
He
attempted
never
it
really
first.
adopted
He
it.
attempted
Yeah.
it through the first half, and then
No.
halfway through the movie.
No, it was.
I
No.
think it was spotty throughout
Yeah.
the
When they
whole
got
thing.
to England, he was like, "I'm just gonna drop this accent."
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you
tired
can
of
tell
it.
which scenes
yeah.
they shot first,
Right.
and which
That's
scenes
true.
they shot last.
Yes,
after the
by
director
whether or
was
not
like,
he's attempting,
bro.
Yeah, let's just
Don't.
let it go.
Just not.
Let's not.
Like the guy that played Little John, like went up to him and was like, "Dude, no,
Stop.
just stop with it."
No one's buying it.
Exactly.
Let's just drop it.
And Morgan Freeman was like, "And you don't have a very good accent either."
There's a connection between Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and this movie Duncan.
I know,
Duncan
thank
from
you.
Robin
Great
Hood.
Oh,
sequel.
was it
or,
Duncan?
exactly. Great.
He was the.
Segue. He was
When
the servant that
He
got
was the servant
sold
that got-
in this movie.
They got bought
so
back.
that started the whole.
So I
Who
have
was
a
told
thing.
to go
No, I
catch
have
a
a
chicken.
I have a exactly. I have a question about Duncan.
Mhm.
So when he was brought back, when he
Right.
was rebought back, when Drew Barrymore's character brought him back,
Uh-huh.
what is his relationship with the two old ladies?
I think he's married to
one
the
of
oldest
them.
one.
He was kissing up on both of them.
Maybe he's married to both.
Well,
I don't
I mean,
know.
That's
there's-
my question. Is
there's
this like
servants.
a three-way thing?
Have
Is
you-
this like,
did you notice
I mean,
that
it's
those two-
France,
those-
right? It's France, allegedly.
Menage a trois.
Exactly.
You know, there are those two little old lady servants are joined at the hip. They clean everything together, including the chamber pot. They carry it together, and I'm like, can't one of you go make the bed and one of you go cook? Or they're always doing the same exact
Multitask.
chore at the
They're
same
already
time.
not getting paid because they keep getting docked for stuff that
Right.
Angelica Houston keeps selling. So why put the extra effort?
Which they didn't
Why,
know.
and why
They
does she
didn't
keep
know that.
asking them where it's at when she knows?
Because she's pretending that she's
Right.
not selling it so that she can dock them to
Yeah.
pay so she can save money.
And that's why
No.
they're like, if you say that again,
Yeah,
we'll be
why do you
paying
keep
them
telling
more."
her?
Keep telling her we're missing stuff. We're going to wind up having to pay her
Well,
to work for her.
I didn't understand this. She married Drew Barrymore's dad.
Yes.
Angelica Houston's character.
So
Yeah, I have a
how
problem
Angelica
with
Houston?
this.
So how is Drew Barrymore her servant? I don't understand. How are you not?
Her mom was a countess de blah, blah, blah,
De
whatever she was.
Lancre.
See, that was
And then
French.
well, she's just
and that's the
she's
only
just a peasant.
French you get.
Well,
how's
just
your-
because your mom dies and your dad dies, you're still
Well,
noble blood,
But
correct?
I don't think her dad was noble. I think he was a merchant.
Oh,
and
yes.
when the Comtesse married the merchant,
That's
she's
why he
no
had
longer.
to keep going.
That's why he had to keep going out to do his merchant stuff to make money. And so when he died, his wife
was the
and her-
baroness. How did she become the baroness?
But she didn't become a baroness because she married him. She was a baroness.
Right, but doesn't that elevate him to her? She married
No,
him.
it doesn't work that
it's-
way.
It's kind of like
Oh my God, you guys are
Meghan
arguing with me over the
Markle
historical
is
accuracy of
not,
Ever After.
Really, you're complaining.
I'm just saying.
So Meghan Markle's not a princess. Princess Diana was never a princess.
So now that she's married, she still has to clean the chamber pots.
Apparently,
I
Who's
don't.
married?
No,
I'm
but
sure
she's-
her
Merkel.
life would have been
She-
different
so-
if her dad
so-
lived.
at the end of the movie, Drew Barrymore becomes like princess consort. She'll probably be Duchess of whatever. Kate, the
But like
Prince Harry's-
the
as Duchess
American
of
woman,
York.
the
Meghan.
American
She will
woman
never
that
be
just
queen.
married
Right.
the actress that married
Meghan Markle.
Meghan Markle.
Right.
He's not ordering her around the house cleaning
Well,
stuff.
no,
and then he
No,
has so
her
stuff.
dad. If her dad wouldn't have died and
That never
left
would have happened.
that to her, the mom just didn't like.
Well,
her
I'm telling you
as
that
a
if the
stepdaughter.
prince were to tragically something happen to her, Merkel does not become the family servant.
No, but she has family. Like this little girl is left without a family. Her
Right.
dad was her
Right.
only family left, and now her
she had
stepmother
nowhere else to go.
is in charge of her
Which is what
upbringing.
she addresses. Why can't you be the one thing I've always wanted?
I'm
What's
sorry.
that?
I'm
Your
sorry.
mother,
I just
how
don't.
can I love the pebble in my shoe?
Right.
She's always been.
I wrote that line down too. What a horrible line.
Those are horrible people.
Well, she's
Yeah.
the evil stepmother.
Oh, yeah.
She's supposed to be horrible.
I just
I
no.
think they explained it. I mean,
Yeah, and
I
I
tried to
think, I
explain
think there are some things that we are supposed to get as watchers of this movie. I'll give it that there are things that we're supposed to get in the knowing of the fairy tale in
Mhm.
itself.
Yes.
I mean, I think it does a good job. I think it does do a good job of telling the story in a manner that makes it as real world as possible. Right, the fairy godmothers, the two ladies.
I would have liked it better.
Right, and then the little mouse is the Duncan character.
Yes.
And then you have the glass slipper, right? Whatever.
Nobody proposes to someone with a shoe. I'm going to say that.
I know, and I mean, this is who knows.
Carrie Bradshaw was proposed to
That's
with
right.
a shoe.
Hello.
that is right.
Hello.
Snap.
I bet you
Who's
feel
Carrie
dumb, don't you?
Bradshaw?
That's probably a
Sex
movie
and the
you'd be
City.
glad you didn't have to watch.
Yeah,
It's,
that was almost on.
Sex and
That
the
was
City.
another one that was almost on my list.
I was
Okay.
hoping you'd pick Sex and the City too. I
Is that because
love
of
It
is
didn't
that
even
because
occur
it's a
to me.
Cinderella story in
No,
Sex and
because
the
it's
City?
Sex and the City.
'Cause
He
it's Sex and the
proposes
City.
with a shoe.
I'm just saying, ever after
Well,
would have been
I think
probably.
it's-
there's probably in Sex and the City there's probably some Cinderella undertones.
Sarah Jessica Parker
but
was-
No.
Sarah
No.
Jessica Parker
Let's
was
not give
really
it that much
good
credit.
in that horse
I know
racing
that's
movie.
giving it too much credit. Exactly.
Let's not
But
give
yeah.
it that much credit.
Ever After would have been better if at the end she had made the Brothers Grimm drive her to the beach and she threw the shoe into the ocean.
It would have been better if the prince died because she wouldn't let him get on her door.
Shut up. Go, moving on.
Cute Titanic theme song.
Anyway, Utopia was published in 1516. I just want to get y'all on this.
Okay.
So I wanted to talk about the death scene, the father's death scene,
Oh,
and the dramatics that went into that. Did anybody notice that the only thing that was missing from that death scene was the
I think he did well. I thought at the
They did
beginning, because he gets on the horse and he like starts messing with his arm, like, oh, my arm works.
Yeah, he keeps
He
grabbing
built
the whole
it up.
time.
Yeah, he built it up. He
then
sold it.
And then you're like, oh.
Well, he was
what's
grabbing
happening?
his arm since
Well,
he
that-
walked out the door, and it was just
That
like,
goes
oh.
right along with one of the notes I wrote about the noises they make when Duncan returns, and you get all these happy peasant noises without They're not saying, "Oh, Duncan, so glad to see." It's these random ooh, ooh, and they're all running and gaggling together.
Again.
and it's just
which makes me question the relationship between the three
Look,
of them.
when you're a servant and there's only one guy, you have to come to some understanding.
You should have heard
and
the.
there's
You should have
plenty
heard
of
the.
Duncan to go around.
You should have heard the noises that night.
I'm not. Well, I don't think his What is his name in this movie? It ain't
I-
Duncan.
Doesn't matter.
it is now.
Ever after a Duncan story.
Exactly. Yeah, so the note that I had on that was just go back to that. It was Duncan and the fairy godmothers three-way question mark. So that was the death scene. I thought I just wrote down an over dramatized.
But
all I
well,
was missing is
here's-
that
The death scene was great because
and I'm talking about like the actual. He's close up.
that's
to
what I'm
her,
saying,
like,
and because it showed he loved the daughter more than the wife, which also drove home why the wife I think treated her so poorly.
bad.
Yeah, but I think the reason she reacted so strongly to it is because now she was stuck in this what she considered a farmhouse. That's why she keeps screaming,
Oh,
"You
what,
can't leave me!"
Angelica
Yeah,
Houston's
Angelica
character.
Houston,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can't
yeah.
leave me here. You can't leave me here. She's not
Right.
crying because he's dying. She's crying
Yeah.
because now she's lost another husband, and now she's like even worse off than she was before.
Yeah.
Well, she's lost another husband, and what I got from that was Angelica Houston's character is she's the serial second wife, right? She's the wife that comes in and either kills the husband or the husband dies and then she squanders the fortune. That's what I got from Angelica Houston's character as the Baroness, right? He married the Baroness, and that tells me she's done something. Why would the Baroness marry the merchant, right? He's just got a farm. If she doesn't want to be there, so she's there because she has to be.
Yes.
That's what I get. She's there because she has to be, and now that Drew Barrymore's father has died. Now that that's happened, she's stuck in the farmhouse.
Yes, which is I think what she was crying about.
Yes,
Now his
absolutely.
death, the situation she is now finding herself in because of his death.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, I still question why they were even married, but we don't have to
No, that's again.
hang
that's,
on that too long because I didn't get that.
So I think.
Why
the
did he
one-
love her? He seemed like a down to earth,
I don't
smart
think-
person.
Again, you're watching a story based on Cinderella that goes into all the stuff that you don't need to see to
Yeah.
I
understand
just
and
think that
enjoy
the-
Cinderella.
The stepmother character, I think the stepmother character, I think is the best written character because.
No, Le Pew.
Oh, let's.
Le
No.
Pew is fantastic.
But it's also
and
Angelica Houston.
wonderfully portrayed by the
Yeah.
actor that played. I believe, pretty sure it's Riff from Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah, Riff
Yes,
Raff.
yes.
It is Riff
Yeah,
Raff.
Riff Raff
And
from
he does
Rocky
an
Horror.
awesome job as
Monsieur
Le
Le,
Pew.
I do.
Monsieur
And they
Mr.
dress him all in
I do
black.
agree.
I know exactly.
See, there's
who
your
he
French-
is.
there's your
I
French
know
connection.
why he's
That's
there.
true. There's the French connection.
Did
right
they
there.
go
Le
to like
Pew.
Villains Are
Monsieur,
Us?
Monsieur.
Monsieur Le
Monsieur
Pew.
Le Pew.
Le
What?
Pied. It's like, did they go to Villains Are Us? Could he look more villainy?
No, but he's the
With
best
the-
one.
with the big
with
hoop
the big
earring.
hoop and the
He
black
was-
leather
he was,
and the.
he
The
is the
ruffle-
the
the ruffled
the
collar.
gem in the rough of a horrible film. He
I-
is the
we know.
beacon of
Yeah.
light and hope to
true.
get to another 10 minutes of that film. Oh, Le
This is
Pew
very
is back. Let me wake up again. I'll open my eyes for a few moments.
You
No,
know,
I will
fun
agree with
fact:
that.
one trivia point was his first name was Peppy.
No,
And
not
that's
true.
it for Doug. Just cut off.
His
We're
first
gonna
name was
mute his
Monsieur.
Monsieur.
So another performance in this film that I enjoyed, like Le Pew, right? Was that was you're absolutely right, a gem.
Yes.
Right, a gem. But also the head gypsy.
Oh,
The
yeah.
head gypsy.
I love the gypsies.
Right,
He was good.
I wrote down the head gypsy, most believable accent in the whole film. Most believable accent.
Yeah.
And
Hold
I
on,
thought
hold
they were
on.
just
You
genuinely
just remind me of the
pretty
scene where
freaking cool
she
people.
Yeah,
picks
they
she
were.
picks up the prince and carries him off.
Yes.
That's this movie, yeah.
Yes,
Yes,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
this movie.
That's this
Yeah.
movie.
Which is an
Anything that
excellent
I can
scene.
carry?
Yeah. Particular. I have your word
on my
with
back.
my horrible British accent.
What an awkward scene. But
It was
I thought it was
clever.
Can we
funny.
talk just a little bit about the relationship between her and the Prince Charming? I mean, though we
So-
chose some romantic films here.
Just
In the
a-
original Cinderella story, I don't believe they meet at the ball, correct?
They meet at the ball, yes.
But we are forced to endure these long political conversations between her pushing for the rights of the democracy versus the monarchy of which he is a part, and her intelligent repartee, I guess, is what he falls in love with.
Yes, and she wanted him to do something good with
Bunch of
his
socialists.
with what he was born into. She was annoyed that
But
he
every
didn't
time they
care.
jump into one of these conversations, my head's just going to Monty Python's The Holy Grail, when the monarchy is not dictated by a watery tart handing out swords. It's the whole. I don't want to watch listen to these two discuss politics and discuss, and
Well,
that's
but
what their whole love
Well, that's what
relationship is
fell in love
based
with, fell in
off
love with her
of.
mind.
Exactly, and I think that drives the Prince character, that
Yeah.
he wants something different. There's something different that he's not his father. This, that, the other.
She
that-
seduced him with politics.
I think her character is what drove the good reviews of this movie. It's how it got a 91%, because I think everybody enjoyed seeing the. She wasn't just the
I think the movie gets to 91%
Right.
because people are blinded by the idea that it's a Cinderella story. They bought into that Titanic
Well, what do you
version
think
of
Cinderella remake got?
what's that?
What do you think the Cinderella remake got? I mean,
They remade Cinderella like a
live action,
and-
like they did Aladdin.
Oh, it already came out. How did it do? Oh, give me those fresh movie stats, Doug.
Well, you
I
said
never
it,
saw
like,
it.
but-
Well, you keep I think the reason it did so well is it's not just Cinderella being saved by the prince. Cinderella saved the prince, and then she saved herself.
Like to see, like he didn't really do anything to help.
and they lived.
All he
But
did was elevate her
point
status.
is,
She
Angie,
even escaped
the point
Pepe
is,
Le Pew.
they lived.
Le Pieux.
Which, by the way, was he the most ineffectual villain ever?
Here you go.
He's just like, here's your key.
Your freedom. Bye.
And like,
Bye.
as if this was actually happening in France and she was his property,
Right.
he wouldn't just send out his men to go get her right back.
I think they had to do some of the stuff that they did because of that opening scene, though. The opening Titanic scene, like
Right,
with the old lady. She's like, and then this.
I'm
she has the
telling you,
glass,
it is-
The
it's a-
slipper was glass.
It's a
Right.
reverse Titanic.
It is, and this came out before or after Titanic. This is '98, right?
Not so right after.
Right after Titanic. So that whole if they could have taken out that beginning scene and started with him running away. They didn't need that.
But it's also amusing that
Brothers
before you get to the
Grimm.
end, that
Yeah.
the king tells him, you don't have to get married. I just wanted you to do something with your life.
Which is not how monarchies work.
Right.
But he tells him that.
Well, but
This idea you've come up with, the school for everyone. I like it. Why don't you work on that? Don't worry about getting married anymore.
Right, and then there's like the little comic relief with the king and queen of Spain having the same problem where the daughter
Yeah.
doesn't want
Yeah.
to get married and the daughter's crying the whole time.
Right.
Which
That was
I think that was
enjoyable. I thought that was funny.
It was cute.
that reminded me of Coming to America.
oh yes.
That whole in Coming to America she wasn't crying, but that whole scene was like that. He's gonna take her aside and talk.
Next to the
I
movie.
can't imagine how anyone could ever watch this movie more than once.
I've seen it
Oh my God.
many times.
I chose this movie because I have seen this movie forcibly at least probably 24 times at least.
I almost didn't watch
In
it
its
just because I'd
entirety,
seen it so
at
many
least
times.
2
I
So,
don't need
so to
see
be
it again.
clear, though, only the three guys dislike this
Oh
film.
no, I like this movie.
Oh, you
I
like
don't
it?
hate this movie. There's nothing wrong with the movie. It's a movie. I
No.
remember watching that and
It's a movie.
The look on their faces, the look on Kevin
on,
and
you're-
Andy's face
No.
is so
I didn't find
No.
it. I didn't find it hard to
Disappointed.
watch.
I think
Shut
bewildered
That
is
such
you got-
a hard
You
watch.
have Con Air on your hate list, right?
Mhm.
So
It's
you
like
got
the
you
swing
have to go
vote
sit
took
in
our
the movie
side.
theater and watch one of them, Con Air or Ever After. Which one are you going to watch?
Probably Ever After. Ever After. No, there's no probably about it.
my
I'd watch Ever
God.
After.
Oh my gosh.
That's like the worst.
That
That's
is-
like hell to me. Like,
that is like
I just
hell.
didn't-
How
They
could
feel
you?
so betrayed.
My
by
only
the-
problem. There's only a few problems I had with this movie.
Only a few.
The movie trope, the romantic comedy movie trope of "you lied to me."
Oh yeah, I can see that.
I groaned when that happened.
Well, that guy, he flip flops like right there. There's like a period in the movie where the prince like flip flops from loves to hates
But that's like
it's ingrained in his
hates.
head.
There's always those movies where, what was the movie with? Was it Matthew McConaughey? Where Kate Hudson.
How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. Where she lies to him the whole movie, and they were both lying to each other, and then she found out that he lied to her, or one of the and then that ends it. But she was trying to tell him the whole time.
But
it's such a romantic comedy movie trope.
Yeah.
I
mean,
you're
really
calling it a
dislike
trope. I think part of the problem though is that
More of a plot.
there is the internal romantic comedy or romance story of boy gets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl back. That is the formula. That is what you're
They had
watching.
to have-
Sometimes in How to Lose a
How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
they reverse it and it's girl gets boy, girl loses boy, girl gets boy back. They just reverse the sexes on it. It's the same formula.
Well,
and you're going to see that every time you see
my
one of
problem isn't it's. She tried to tell him about the lie. They met me over a lie. She tried to tell him about the lie. The lie is what breaks them up. But then in the end, they come back together because he can get past the lie, or he realizes.
Thanks to
that
Da
it was-
Vinci.
Exactly.
Well,
Well,
but-
even though, like, even though, like, from the prince's mouth.
How often do you get to say
From
that?
the prince's mouth, he says, "There's nothing that you could do that could ever make me love you less." He says, "Oh well, I'm really such and such." What?
I know.
Now
I now
love you.
no longer love you.
That's what
It's not even that. It was
that
it was a
quickly.
stepmother. She's really a peasant.
Exactly.
She's my servant.
And he's like, whoa, what?
You're a servant. First you were married, and now
Engaged.
you're a servant. Or you're engaged, and now you're a servant.
Well, I mean,
Well,
this
it's
is
a great telling
ingrained in them. Like, and Roy. I mean, I believed it because his whole life, you're different, you're
So
better.
to get the
No,
actual
whole group of people.
But they've already established that he's like all woke, right?
He
He's
ain't
not
woke.
his father.
He ain't
He's
woke.
trying to not be his father.
and that proved he
No.
was.
But his
I
people,
am the prince
but we
of
actually
France.
find out his
Look,
father's
look,
cool.
he was
You don't have to get married. I just
waking
want you to do
He was
something
not
with your
yet
life.
woke.
Get
Right.
up off the couch.
pre-woke.
Get up off the couch. Go get a job. Go do something. That's what his father was trying to say to him. You can't just live here in the castle forever. Get your life going.
Start the university that wasn't even your idea.
Yeah, go do
exactly.
it.
That was your girlfriend's idea.
Go do something. So 3 out of the 5 penguin like this.
I like this.
Kevin
movie.
and I are an island unto ourselves.
Okay.
I'd recommend, if someone asks, I'd recommend this movie. Hey, should I watch it? Yeah, go ahead. It's all right.
Cute.
You would recommend it?
No, I'm sorry, Doug.
It is what it is. It's one of the better romantic
Cinderella
comedies, I
movies.
thought.
Better?
This was a repressed memory for me. I didn't remember much about
I
this
would think
movie.
if you went down that guy's list of movies, Fools Rush In, blah blah blah, all those movies, Hitch, watch Ever After. It's probably the better.
Okay.
Hold on. You think that that same director who did all those great romantic comedies, that this one
say
is
so.
better than
I've
those?
watched Fool's Gold in the theater.
I've
This
never
was-
seen.
Rush
I've
In.
never
Fool's
seen
Gold.
Fool's Gold.
It's not
I think I've seen
Fool's Gold
Fool's
is
Rush
not
In.
good. It's not.
No,
Is
it's
Either
bullshit.
is Fool's Rush In.
Is that
That's
another
Selma
benefit?
Hayek.
It's Selma Hayek.
And Chandler.
Chandler.
And
Yeah.
Chandler Bong.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Chandler being
Chandler Bong.
Jan Handler Bong.
Yeah.
Okay.
Miss Chandler Bong.
Are we going to talk about the sisters? Marilee, the
I like
blonde,
the middle sister. I like the
I
middle
like-
one.
Yeah, same
She
here.
was kind of a
she's in that
Wet
Charlie,
Blanket?
Two and a half men. The
She-
dark-haired one.
Don't watch.
She's from
Yeah,
Two and a
I
Half
don't know
Men.
what her.
Don't
what
watch
was her
Two and a
name?
Half Men.
What was her name in the movie?
Jocelyn. Was it
Jocelyn.
Jacqueline.
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 When she's like, "This is my daughter," Bridget.
Jacqueline.
Oh, and Jacqueline. I was like, man.
I mean, are we going to even? Are we going
Like,
to? Are we going to go there?
The older sister was horrible.
Well,
The
she
older-
is.
horrible
She
person.
is what Angelica Houston was. That
Mhm.
she's on that
Yeah.
track.
Oh,
She's
big
going
time.
to be the
The
she's
serial
going to
second
serial.
wife, the serial. Absolutely.
Marry, take the money, squander it. Marry, take the money, squander it. When your daughter is of what's it when birthing age.
Marriageable age.
I'm going to marry her off so she.
So
can,
don't you think that maybe if you're going to take Cinderella and you're going to truthify it, turn it into a reality, shouldn't you step a little bit away from the, I don't know, the cliche or the big flamboyant, exaggerated character of the stepsister and the evil stepmom? Shouldn't they be more real people personalities than you kind of end up with the cartoonish evil stepmom? You have the cartoonish
Yes.
evil stepsister. You have the LePews. You had LePew. You had
Well, and
these archetypal, cartoonish characters that don't fit into a reality.
Exactly. And that's what we get. The expectation that we are set up for in the beginning with the old lady and the Brothers Grimm, and that whole exchange is that, I'm going to tell you the real story. That's not the magic with the fairy godmothers. The real story, but we still end up having the cartoonish villainy of the Angelica Houston, right? And the stepsisters. Which, you could take that. I think you could take that either way. They really are.
The Brother Grimms could have just slapped the old lady then and said, "It's exactly like we told you."
Well, I think you have to remember that she's telling the story from Drew Barrymore's perspective. I imagine that's where she heard the story from. So when you're the one telling the story, the villains are still going to be villainous.
Like when I talk about Andy to my kids, you will be the villain.
So when they retell the story, you're going to be cartoonishly
I'm
villainy.
proud of that.
Andy LePew, yes.
His name was LePew.
I almost carved him from navel to nose.
Well, let's not. Okay, so we just talked about the sisters. Jacqueline, who I think had a lot of layers to her. She didn't.
She had the most redemption. She had the most character arc, or not character arc, but character growth.
She wasn't perfect the whole time. She didn't say something. She saw something. She didn't say anything.
But she
let it happen.
Unfair a lot of it was, especially when they, and it really started turning when they had the dress.
Right.
And she's like, "Oh, of course, these are your dress, and blah blah blah, and we want you to come." And then she gets all mad and walks out, and they say, "Oh, that's because she didn't want you to come."
Right.
But it was because she knew that they were lying to her.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No. She had a really good character.
I think if you're going to do a historical film about France, you have to include a game of tennis.
By the way, tennis first played in France in the 12th century.
I'm telling you,
Oh,
it was. They were doing as much.
Tennis. Really?
They were,
and they were accurate.
They were going for historical
Rock, paper,
accuracy.
Was it really?
China.
Yeah.
That's
Rock,
been
paper,
around a
scissors.
long time.
Yeah,
Anything
I
that they
wrote-
could come up with they picked a year and they went.
Oh, and they did say that
16th century, right?
at the end of the
Backgammon.
actual Cinderella story, they blind the stepdaughter and the stepmother. But they didn't do that in this. But they said that by sending them to the laundry back then, the chemicals and everything they used usually ended up blinding them. So they didn't blind her.
I wish they would have gone
Physically,
there. Because I don't think they got what they deserved.
That she was going to be.
I think it was a
They
worse
also cut their
fate
feet
for them.
off. The two sisters to cut one cut her heel off, one cut her toes off to fit her
To
foot
fit
into
the
the
foot
shoe.
in the shoe in the
In the
original
original
story. Yes. No, I think the fate that they got was probably better than anything else they could have gotten. It was their worst nightmare.
Yeah.
They are now the servants.
But it kind of ended with
Yeah.
them in a comical, and they're wrestling around, and they turn purple.
Management.
Yeah.
No, that was great.
You're right. And they turn purple from
They
the.
get
Yeah,
dyed.
let's
From the
throw some-
dye.
Let's throw some jokes in
It's
here.
just
Yeah.
kind of like doot 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 doot.
Let's end this on a light note.
Yeah, a couple of things. So I was trying to fact check this movie, and they actually got. I didn't look up stuff like Canvas. Good catch there. I was just looking at.
I just
years.
happen to know that.
I just wanted to catch them on
that
Sis-
didn't
the
exist
Sistine-
until 100 years later.
Yeah,
Right, 'cause they
that's why
mentioned-
we were looking for backgammon. And,
So at the very beginning, Da
paper,
Vinci says, "Oh, Michelangelo, he's in Italy working on a project,
working on the ceiling.
Sistine
Oh,
Chapel,"
Yeah.
and it matched up. Backgammon can be traced back to 5,000 years.
I don't think Da Vinci had boat shoes.
I think they might have taken some.
And I don't think it's boat shoes. When you walk on the water, it's like you're walking, like the water becomes wood. 'Cause he was just like.
I know he was.
He was like,
whoa.
"Hello,
Yeah. Yeah. I think.
good evening."
Yeah. I could make some floating boat shoes, but you wouldn't be able to walk across the water like that. No.
So, what was everyone's favorite or least favorite or most hated scene of the movie?
Just breathe.
The trailer that I think that's another thing that gets it grinds my gears about this movie was the trailer.
It's like a dance movie. That's
dude.
They raved it up.
They went deep on the trailer on budget for this because I remember seeing this on TV and that just breathe was just. It was annoying.
Yeah, I do remember
It
that.
was
That was
annoying.
like the scene.
Exactly. It was the scene, and it was annoying. But out of this whole thing, I mean, my favorite scene out of this whole thing was everything that had to do with the gypsies.
Okay.
I think the gypsies were the most believable characters. I think they were the most likable characters because they were the Switzerland of the movie, right? They really hadn't.
Well, they were pushed out of society, and then he invites them to the ball.
Exactly.
Or right? He's
Yeah,
like, I want
He's
to.
at the
I invited the
he's
gypsies.
And I invited. That was funny. That was a fun. I thought the parents, the
What
scenes
happened
with the
to-
parents.
would have been great.
were
The next
comical.
scene would have
Yeah.
been.
They made good
what happened to all the
comics,
silverware?
I like when Da Vinci opened. So they're trying to get the door open where she's trapped. She was trying to make it to the ball so she can tell him the truth in her bird outfit. And so they all, how are we gonna get in? How are we gonna get into this? They can't open the locked door.
He
And then
just takes
doors
it off the
Da
hinges.
Vinci, and Da Vinci comes down and he goes, takes out the hinges and thank you so much. And he goes, I shall go down in history as the man who opened a door.
Yeah, that was
I like
good.
that was-
Yeah, Da Vinci
Yeah,
comedy.
I
Comedy
will-
gold right
I
there,
Comedy
will
y'all.
gold.
revise my previous statement. Da Vinci and the gypsies
Yeah.
are my favorite.
I mean, he was good.
Yeah.
I'm standing by Le Pew.
No.
Anytime Le Pew
I know,
is
no,
on,
I like him too. I like
He
him too.
held-
But we
he-
already
he-
covered everything he's done in
it's
the
almost as
movie.
if
was
he
only like two
ignored
scenes.
the terrible movie around him and just said, I am playing this horrible caricature. They're going to put me in black. I'm going to put on the earring. I'm going to act evil because that's what I'm supposed to ooze in this role. And he just played it. And it was fine because part of the trick of the film is it's a fairy tale brought to life fairy tale, right?
Right.
It's supposed to look fair. Everything's prettier than it should be. The servants aren't really covered in mud like they probably should be at some points. They're not as dirty as they should be. They're actually having a good time. They joke and laugh with each other as much as they complain. And I mean, they're whining about their salary. What servants are whining about? They should be whining about we didn't get enough bread to eat. But the whole trick of it's a very cleanly told version of reality of a fairy tale. But yeah, with like Pew's on the screen, you can forget all that. He's just playing that caricature
Yeah.
of an evil villain, and that's what if I enjoyed any minute of this, that would be it.
All right, we know where you stand on this.
Exactly.
Oh, I hated it.
I know.
I don't know if I have a favorite scene. I just enjoyed the movie. I've seen it so many times. Maybe that's because I've seen it so many times that I don't really hate it.
And I'm the exact opposite. I feel like that was like a version of waterboarding for me.
Now there's movies.
Yeah.
There's movies I've seen so many times that I really can't stand Walk to Remember. Yeah. A Walk to Remember with Nicholas Sparks. I've
A
seen
Nicholas
that.
Sparks
With
movie.
Nicholas, wait,
No, with Mandy Moore.
Mandy Moore.
Oh, I don't remember.
You guys got cancer and blah blah blah.
But that
No.
isn't that every Nicholas Sparks movie?
Right, I don't remember.
That's a movie I've
No,
seen so many
I
times I
haven't seen
can't
it.
stand. But I've never.
Now,
I
if you want to talk
I
the
don't
Notebook,
hate this movie. I didn't think it was a bad movie. I just thought it was a movie. I probably don't want to see it 50
It's so
times.
bad.
So,
I would agree with you there.
but
I missed what you said. I was thinking about the Notebook.
I saw
Sorry.
a meme that said Nicholas Sparks movies should all be, or Nicholas Sparks books should all be titled "White People Kissing."
In the rain. In the rain.
Yes.
Yeah.
In the rain, and then one of
do
us
I
dies.
plan to ever watch this movie ever again? No, I will probably never see it again.
You won't watch it ever after.
Ever after, ever again.
And I didn't even know.
I just gotta say,
I think this is the first time I realized it was called Ever After a Cinderella Story. I didn't know it was a
realizing
Cinderella story
that
actually
you
was part of it.
just you just admitted that if I were to ask you, should I see Ever After, that you would say, yeah. I don't know if I could ever trust your opinion again.
Armageddon.
Because if I
you see now how it's Armageddon.
if I ask you in a minute, should I go see Glass? I don't know. I don't know that would be of any use to me to tell me, because
I'll tell you right now.
If
no.
you said this,
Don't.
if you came up to me and were actually pondering seeing Ever After,
yeah.
there must have been some interest in it. So I'd say, yeah, go ahead. I'm not going to go out of my way and tell you, maybe we should go see Ever After.
Okay,
That
I
would never
appreciate
happen.
that. I appreciate you're not gonna sprinkle this on somebody.
But if you were like,
Doug's like,
I'm
Doug's
dating
like,
a girl and she wants me to watch Ever After, I'd be like, yeah, it'll be all right. You'll be fine. Like, it's okay.
Doug calls Andy in the middle of the night. It's like 2:00 in the morning. Andy, I had to tell you this. You have to watch Ever After.
And every text message will be, "Have you seen Ever After yet?" Have you seen Ever After? That won't happen.
Bruh, BRUH. You have to see Ever After.
Doug, this is Andy. Are you up? Hey, she wants to go back to her place and watch Ever After.
But
Do it.
if you want to watch, if you're saying,
Hey,
should I watch this movie
if
because
it's
we watched it? Yes.
if it's 2 a.m. and she's inviting me back to her place to watch Ever After, I'm not calling Doug.
You're just gonna make that.
I'm gonna make that
decision
choice.
yourself.
On the fly.
Like if you said this, hey, they're reviewing Ever After. Should I watch it? Yes. If don't watch Twilight, but you should watch Ever After.
Watch Twilight.
Watch Twilight.
Yeah.
So we haven't heard. We've heard from us. What about you guys? Favorite scenes?
I had my scene with Da Vinci and the hinges.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I think it's Angie's.
So
turn.
I know somebody said they didn't like it, but I like with the gypsies when they tell her she can take anything she can carry,
Mhm.
and she
Yeah.
puts him on her back.
Yeah.
I thought that was clever. I thought that was witty. And so did they, because they invited them to
That
stay.
happened in a battle, by the way, where they were going to let all the women leave, and the women said they wanted, "Can we take anything that's on our backs?" And they said yes. And so they took all the men on their backs. And
Is
the
that a
king,
real story?
And the king, who was running the battle, said they were so clever, just let them do it.
Cool. That's real.
Rooted in truth.
I've heard the story. I didn't know if it was
I
actually.
read it in the trivia section.
Okay. So that was my
Well,
favorite. I
and-
thought it was cute.
yeah.
I thought it was clever. I thought it was.
And that scene sets off a whole bad next day for Drew Barrymore because she gets drunk.
Drunk.
And she's
hungover,
hungover.
is derelict in
and
her duties.
Angelica Houston did not appreciate that one damn bit. So,
No, she didn't. Was
yeah.
that was that was when she'd come home the next morning, right? It was like she didn't.
She came
Yeah,
home.
because the
Yeah.
gypsies call them back to party. They're like,
Yeah, they went to-
we
they
enjoyed
They
it.
go party.
Yeah,
and they go
She
out.
thought we were just gonna kill you, but you know what?
Yeah.
Come on,
that's-
let's go party.
Yeah, I believed it.
I
That was
believe that.
believable.
Hey,
Yeah, they were.
it's business,
They were.
right?
They
It would
were-
have been like in Training Day, where
I'm
they're
telling
going to
you.
kill him in the bathtub, and then afterwards they're like, "Hey, why don't you have some beers with us?" I'd be like, "No, I'm good."
That's
think
why
I'm
I
getting
ended up
outta
having to
here."
know LARPers
This is
gone
just
wild.
business essay.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I wouldn't have had beers with those guys after that. I would have left.
I would
pretty
have
sure.
like,
Yeah, I'm good, guys. I'm good. Out of here.
good.
Maybe one. I mean, you got a bloody mouth, and you had a shotgun, and I mean, I'll tell you, I have one beer.
That's probably some like
Polite.
real,
It's
like,
polite.
It's
that
polite.
beer
You know what
though.
a man
Come on,
is.
insult your
I
guys.
feel like the
Your
gypsies have that
Manners
beer that
maketh mad.
We're gonna have a
Have
couple
the beer that-
beers, watch Twilight.
that really
Let me
like,
call-
fucks
let
you
me
up.
call
Oh,
Doug.
I imagine they do. Yeah.
We're gonna have a couple beers, watch Twilight. That's it. Let me
call Doug real quick.
I need some advice. Hey, Doug. So I just got taken out of the bathtub with a shotgun in my head, and these dudes want me to watch.
They want to
Twilight.
know. They want to know
Is
if
it a
they
good
should
enough
watch
movie?
Ever After.
Is it? Yeah.
I mean, I would say, don't not watch it.
Okay. Any other scenes since we went
Weird.
on a huge
I mean,
tangent?
We are digressing. No, that was my favorite scene.
Anyone want to take a run at convincing me it's a great film?
No.
No.
Okay.
I don't think it's a great. I don't think anybody thinks.
Yeah,
it's
I
a
don't
great
think
No,
it's a
we don't
great
think it's a
film.
great film.
I'm very. I think we were all genuinely surprised, even the ones on this side of the line that liked it, that it got such a high rating by critics.
Oh, yeah.
By critics
that
on
was
Rotten
the
Tomatoes.
most surprising.
That's a very high rating.
And I saw too
for
like,
a mediocre movie.
It was
I
like
know.
84%.
That has me shook.
Like it's
I can't believe the critics liked it.
Well, 84%.
of people, the audience. It was
Of
84%.
They
audience.
liked that it was a strong women performance.
And I like that too.
And I think
Go
that's what
women.
really drove it. And I think it was the highest rated
Women
movie
power.
that we saw of this group.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I like the message. I do like the message that she
Message.
was smart. You know, I think that's good for.
that the point is that it happened.
Yeah, she didn't conform
Yeah.
to the.
Yeah,
Whatever,
I
you
mean,
know,
she
she
was
thought of people.
smart.
She's-
That's what he.
I just
he
don't.
loved.
Why is she so mean at the end? Why is the old lady so angry and upset that the point is that
Oh,
we live?
the way she
like
said it.
it's just so
Oh,
it's just such a mean ending.
I do have a question.
Like she hates the Grimm brothers.
Who is she?
Well, yeah.
yeah.
Like,
And
who is
why
she?
did she have the slipper?
She
Well,
said
I think is she a grandchild?
I thought
great
she.
grandchild or something like that. I
Is
think.
that-
So what
She's
she
in the
said.
offspring. She's a.
Oh,
One-
I thought she was
once
Cinderella.
removed.
I thought
No.
it was
Because
old
she
Drew
said something
Barrymore.
about I thought so too, but then she said a comment. This was my great grandmother. Or some
Oh,
sort.
that's right.
She does
That's
say
right.
it.
She does say
Okay.
that.
I must have missed that.
I'm
And
gonna
then-
stand by.
and
She
then-
should have forced the Grimm brothers to take her to the beach, threw the shoe into the ocean, And scene.
and then cue the flute. The flute music, something that is similar, but not but monetarily different.
And then the credits roll to "Come dance if you want to." And you have like the little midgets and doing the whole safety dance there with the little medieval dancers.
She was her great grandmother.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah, because they were from the 19th century. So it would have been a couple
right.
hundred years later.
Yeah, this was in the 1500s.
They couldn't tie it as close together. That's why Drew Barrymore didn't play the old lady.
Yeah, so this was, like I said, this was my pick, and as I mentioned in episode 1 of this season, this was a very emotional pick for me. I mentioned it earlier in this episode. This movie used to be like being waterboarded for me. I would come home and this movie would be on. I would come out of my room and this movie would be on.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask, did she have a tape? Was this a tape that just rewind?
It was a DVD.
It was a DVD.
Is it a DVD?
And she just had it on repeat.
Yeah,
we watched it
all the time. and
did she have a crush on the Prince or Drew Barrymore?
No,
like, what was going on there?
The story. I mean, the whole story.
She just liked it. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And
Christina, if you're listening, please go to our Facebook page.
Drop us
and
some
explain
comments.
yourself.
Exactly. Drop a comment on our the
We need to know.
Or
Christina, you inspired this
on Twitter. Yeah, Christina, and she ran. I mean, at the time, she ran the house. She was that was her personality. She ran the house. We just lived there. It was her world.
So if she put it on, you had to watch it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was her world. We were just a small piece of it.
Okay.
And I was fine with that.
You guys were the servants.
This was at this point. I had just quit working. We had just quit working together and working, but I mean that's how long ago this was. Literally 2000, year 2000.
Right.
In the year 2000. So this was my pick, and that emotional just.
Were y'all
torture?
It was either Ever After or worrying about the Y2K, just.
So
maybe it was trying. Maybe Christina
were
just
not
was.
worrying
We
about
were at
that.
a rave that night.
Maybe Christina was just trying to not
cool.
think about how Y2K was going to.
I don't think I necessarily
burn everything
this
down.
movie would never have come up on my hate list, but I hated having to watch this movie.
Yeah.
And I right now I kind of resent you a little bit, Kevin, because
That's his
I'm
fault.
like, why did you make me watch that?
Well, I want you to take that feeling and amplify that by
Imagine
by having to watch it every day.
Imagine
Every day.
walking out of your room
Every
every
day.
time it's on.
Yeah, every time.
That's
Yeah.
how
you,
Kevin feels.
you just walk out, you turn the corner, and boom, Ever After's on the television, and you can't change
Okay,
it.
here's if you had to if that experience hadn't happened and Ever After wasn't on your list, what would have been your must watch? What?
Unbreakable.
Oh man, I could
You
watch
could
that.
have been watching Unbreakable.
I'll watch Unbreakable any day.
It would have been a tie between Unbreakable and Mission Impossible 2.
Although I'll
starring
say,
Tom Cruise
I'll
is there.
say Unbreakable.
Mission
The problem with
Impossible.
watching
That
it
would
too
add
often,
some dubs,
though,
right?
I
Tom
think
Cruise,
you
man.
would
Tom
get
Cruise's
bored
hair
with it
and
after a
dubs?
while. But it is
Yes,
it's a
dubs.
decent a
Yeah.
decent superhero movie. I mean, it's good.
Tom Cruise's
What,
hair
Tom
made him.
Cruise is
No,
made
Unbreakable.
appearance
I
in
don't
Little
know.
Sky.
no.
The Mission
Unbreakable
Impossible
was-
stuff. I don't
Unbreakable
know.
was really boring.
Yes, it was. Thank you.
It was very
So-
dark and very gray and very boring.
Absolutely, it was an action movie that had no action. That they told you about.
Speaking of
action.
an action movie that has no action, what movie are we doing next?
That's a great question. I'm glad. You asked that. As I was saying, this was my pick, and that's why. That's why is I have
It's
an
a
emotional
solid.
tie
It's
to
a
it.
solid hate movie, I guess.
It's just an emotional tie, and it gives me indigestion.
Sure.
To watch this movie, to think about this movie. Drew Barrymore's
He ain't
performance
lying,
in this
folks.
movie, it's not good for me. So I'll round out our discussion about Ever After, subtitled A Cinderella Story, by saying I need a Tums. So our next movie, season 2, episode 3, we're going to be talking about Doug's pick. We're going Pacific Northwest. We're going sparkly vampires. We're going Twilight. Join us for our next episode, season 2, episode 3, Twilight. We'll see you later, folks.
Wow, 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 wow.